Hey Eagles fans, I'm Thomas Mott. Welcome into the Eagles Report, and today, the top 5 candidates for the Eagles offensive coordinator job. We're going to reveal who they are and why the Eagles are interested, reportedly, in every single one of them. Before we start, though, like the video at the end if you think one of the 5 candidates I reveal here will be the Eagles offensive coordinator, and also click the red subscribe button because we're the fastest growing Eagles channel here on YouTube. We're getting some crazy numbers right now. Hit the subscribe button. Without further ado, let's go ahead and jump right in. All right, so it's been a couple of weeks since they fired Mike Groh, the former Eagles offensive coordinator in 2019, and they still have not hired anybody, which means they're taking their time and trying to find the right fit. Maybe they're trying to coax somebody out of retirement to be the offensive coordinator as well. Before we start with some names, the Eagles were 23rd in total offense in 2019, not exactly where you want to be, and obviously whoever becomes the offensive coordinator, his main but his main job is going to be to get Carson Wentz to that next elite Patrick Mahomes type level, who we just saw yesterday win the AFC title game for the Kansas City Chiefs under Andy Reid. So let's go ahead and start with our first candidate here in no particular order. How about Mike Kafka? Speaking of the Chiefs, he's the Kansas City Chiefs quarterback coach right now. Actually drafted by the Eagles as a quarterback in 2010 and was a backup for a very long time in the National Football League before getting hired by Andy Reid for his coaching staff. Here's the issue with Kafka. First off, he makes a ton of sense because he's a quarterback guru. He's really gotten Mahomes where he is right now. He has that next great offensive coordinator, offensive mind, head coach written all over him. But the problem, as I just said, is that Kansas City and Andy Reid may block the interview because they want to promote him internally. Now, here's the deal. Whoever is the offensive coordinator for the Philadelphia Eagles will not be calling plays. Doug Peterson will continue to call plays, which means it's less of an intriguing job for some because some people see it simply as offensive coordinator calling plays. That's the next step to becoming a head coach. An offensive coordinator who's not called plays can kind of get, not ripped apart, but question his ability to actually implement offenses and call the proper plays during the right times. So, Kansas City might block this interview, but there are multiple reports that Eagles are very interested in Mike Kafka as their offensive coordinator. And obviously now that he's going to the Super Bowl, he could be interviewed this week during their technical bye week as they get ready for the Super Bowl down in Miami. So Kafka is one of the options right now that has been reported. Next one, Graham Harrell is another option that is being thrown around right now. I believe it was the Philadelphia Inquirer that reported this one. Graham Harrell, you might not recognize the name. It's because he's a college coach. Played quarterback at Texas Tech, was a backup in the NFL for about 3 years, and currently has worked his way up from North Texas to being the offensive coordinator at the University of Southern California. He's the USC OC who, with some big quarterback changes at USC the past couple of years, has really done a great job making USC, at least offensively, relevant with the talent that he has. He's not a big name, oh my goodness, USC, one of the best offensives in college football. No, but many consider him to be a great offensive mind, and the Eagles are reportedly going to be interviewing him as well. A very young guy, only about 32 years old, so it would give you some youth there at the OC spot. I don't know if that's a good or bad thing, but he's another option right now that the Eagles are looking at. So there are your two, I think, dark horse candidates right now. Your two, smaller name guys that could turn out to be really, really good. Kafka and Harrell. We'll have to go ahead and see which one is more likely. I would have to say Graham Harrell right now because, again, KC is reportedly interested in blocking the Kafka interview, meaning he could not be a Philadelphia Eagle candidate. Okay, how about some names that have been rumored but not officially made known the Eagles are going to interview them? Dan Orlovsky, yes, you probably recognize him as the up-and-coming ESPN talent right now, mainly being featured on SportsCenter and ESPN's Get Up. Orlovsky, former NFL backup quarterback, he played with the Lions. I think he did 10 to 13 years as a backup, but has ties to Philadelphia. He lived there at one point. His wife is a huge Eagles fan, and he has been shown over the past, really this year, to be a massive Carson Wentz fan on ESPN's Get Up. He's defended Carson Wentz time and time again and said he's the next great quarterback in the National Football League. Where we get the interest here is that ESPN's Adam Schefter yesterday on Sunday, right before the AFC title game, reported that Dan Orlovsky did confirm multiple teams have reached out to him for their offensive coordinator positions. Could Philadelphia be one of those? It would make a lot of sense. Listen, there's a lot of backup quarterbacks who did not work out in the National Football League as a starter who turned out to be really good head coaches, a.k.a. Doug Peterson. Remember, Eagle backup quarterback, Brett Favre's backup quarterback, not a great player, but turned out to be a great coach. We've seen Dan Orlovsky, at least in the little bits on ESPN's Get Up, show that he still has the knowledge to be I mean, at least a decent offensive mind in the National Football League, and maybe an ex-quarterback teaching an ex-quarterback, and Carson Wentz could be a perfect pairing there for the Eagles' offensive coordinator spot. This is a long shot right here, but all the little signs kind of add up. Carson Wentz fan, used to live in Philly, backup quarterback. These are some things that are making a lot of sense here. Don't be surprised if the Eagles at least take a phone call or maybe interview Dan Orlovsky, who's just right across the street, really, in Connecticut and New York, bouncing back and forth between the ESPN offices. Moving on. You want an in-house hire. This is the most likely one. How about Josh McCown? He was the Eagles' backup quarterback this year. Remember, Heroics comes in against Seattle, plays with a torn hamstring, and almost beats the Seahawks in the wildcard game just a couple of weeks ago. It's unlikely he's going to play in 2020 as he has eclipsed the age of 40, which we know, besides Tom Brady, is kind of the death sentence there for a bunch of quarterbacks. He's a backup anyway. But this is your basically really the only likely in-house option besides Deuce Staley. We talked about Deuce Staley last week. I do not see Deuce Staley getting the promotion. I don't see an in-house promotion at all if the Eagles want to branch out and get a fresh mind in there. But McCown could be an option because he is a former backup quarterback. He does have, a relationship with Carson Wentz, and he actually has some coaching as well at a high school level, but still has done some coaching throughout his career. He is my least favorite of these candidates, but don't be surprised if Josh McCown at least gets an interview or at least expresses interest in the job, and just as an option for the Eagles to look in-house to try and maybe, not have to teach Carson Wentz a whole bunch of new things because McCown is used to him. Final name here on this list, and again, I mentioned Deuce Staley. He's not on the list, but he is a candidate the Eagles will look at. We talked about this last week. It's Jim Caldwell, the former Colts head coach, the former Lions head coach, and the former Dolphins offensive coordinator in 2019. He coached Peyton Manning, he coached Andrew Luck, he coached Matt Stafford. Here's the interesting, though, a lot of people do not realize about Jim Caldwell. He was supposed to be an offensive coordinator this past year. Brian Flores gets hired from the defensive coordinator spot up in New England, gets hired in Miami. He picks Caldwell to be his offensive coordinator. Caldwell moves to Miami, and a couple of weeks or months later, he decides to step away from the football team for health issues, and we have no idea what those health issues are. He's the oldest candidate here on our top 5 list, but obviously has a ton of pedigree with great quarterbacks. I think it would be a great hire for the Philadelphia Eagles. I said that last week, but the question is, are the health issues like Urban Meyer, where Meyer has health issues, but he's going to come back, try to come back to coaching in the future? Or are these serious health issues where he's like, hey, I'm done, I don't want any part of coaching anymore? If he's not done, the Eagles need to make a phone call to Jim Caldwell. They've been reportedly interested in him, but I'm sure have to weigh, again, if he wants to play or not. He is the most experienced, and to me, would be one of my top 2 choices here on this list. The list to me is fascinating, and I'm sure there are some other names out there that have been floated around, but these are the main ones that have been tied with Philadelphia. I think Kafka, to me, if I had to pick anybody, would be fascinating to hire because he's young, he's an Andy Reid coaching disciple, which was Doug Peterson, and he's worked with Patrick Mahomes, a.k.a. worked with a young quarterback, and could be a great voice to have there getting ready for the draft because the Chiefs have put offensive weapons all around Patrick Mahomes. The Eagles need to be able to do the same. Kafka, to me, makes a ton of sense. Harrell is going to be a name that Eagle fans would not be excited about if we hired him because it's like, ooh, USC's been bad and he's not a big name, but I still think he'd be an offensive mind, or at least have a good offensive mind in the National Football League. Orlovsky would be a fan favorite because everyone loves him on Get Up. He's a great speaker. He's a great talker. He's loved Carson Wentz. He's backed up Carson Wentz. He would make a lot of sense, but the question is, ESPN is probably paying him pretty darn close to what an offensive coordinator would make, anywhere between $1 to $4 million, and his family's already moved, up to New York City, Bristol, Connecticut area. He might just want to stay as an analyst, try to work his way up to being a color analyst on ESPN. He has a very real chance of doing that, which honestly is a less stressful job, and he have more time with his triplets. He has 3 young boys in terms of wanting to spend more family time as well. Orlovsky would be fun. I don't see him leaving his very nice job right now at ESPN, working Get Up and SportsCenter and not having to work as much as an offensive coordinator would. McCown, the in-house option, I think would be fine. I think Eagle fans would respect and understand it, but I think the Eagles need a fresh outside voice to go ahead and come on in and maybe throw some new things at Carson Wentz. That to me would be very, very fascinating. And finally, Jim Caldwell, the veteran, right? He's worked with all the great quarterbacks, Luck and Manning. You got Stafford. All of them had their best years under Jim Caldwell. He would make a ton of sense, but he's older. He's approaching 70 years old. And would the Eagles want to go that route? And would Jim Caldwell want to go that route as well? So I would say he is an option. The Eagles have mentioned that in a couple of rumors from different news organizations, but I think it's probably lower on this list because he might not want to come back at all. And if he does, maybe he just goes back to Miami. Who really knows? Who should the Eagles hire as their offensive coordinator? Let me know in the comment section down below. Is it one of these, or is it somebody else? If it's one of these, comment who, and give me a thumbs up on the video as well. That would really help out the channel. And also, if you have not subscribed to the Eagles Report, fastest growing Eagles channel on YouTube. There are plenty of other Eagle channels here. This is the best one. Click the red subscribe button. I would greatly appreciate that. Plenty of NFL draft and NFL free agency stuff upcoming on this channel. So subscribe, notification bell, that way you're ready to go when the next video is released. For the Eagles Report, I'm Thomas Mott. We go ahead and sign off.